Alright, the trails are wet, so we're gonna just do a neighborhood ride. Comes out to somewhere around 11 or 12 miles. It's not a bad little ride, a little up, down, up, down. I make sure to take every right basically, and turn around. That makes me not get up to speed, but more or less it makes me cycle the gears, and there's a lot of long hills. It's not as good as the trail, but it's better than not riding. The trail's just too damn muddy. And so I tried to stay off of one. The mountain bike society that takes care of Fat Tire Society doesn't like you on them because they tear them to hell. Clay is terrible out here. It takes days to dry. So what we do is we ride on the road. Not perfect, but it gives a nice hour-long ride. Gonna let the bike trail do its thing. You don't hear much from me this time. It is funny to see people watering. It just rained continuous here for a week, and if anybody knows clay, it doesn't dry out. You get funguses in the grass because it doesn't dry out. So when I see people watering right after it just finished raining, kind of get a kick out of it. They don't realize they're doing more harm than good. The worst part is it costs them money. He's just watering weeds. Pettibone. Oh, they're not using stick built. Already framed. Man, they're building this area. If you're wondering what 650 gets you in this neighborhood that's near mine, these are nice houses, don't get me wrong, but some of them are probably 700. A lot of them are 3-car garage. Some are 4-sided brick, on the other side they're not, but they're close. They're not all stick built. Obviously, you can see that truss being lowered in. That means some of it's stick, some of it's built truss. Not that that's terrible, but it's more of a truck builder thing. When you see trusses delivered, it's typically truck built. Now, my neighborhood right beside it, all the houses have been stick built, and most of them in here that I've seen have been stick built. This place isn't cheap, overpriced in my eyes. It's a nice little neighborhood that's right behind me too. You'll see me going through. It's mixed with a little bit of older, probably 90s houses all the way to present day. And they range from, oh, the older ones maybe 600, 700,000 to the newer ones, the 2 million. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. The only lots in here that are left, like this one, is more undesirable. I almost bought that house back in 2016. Can't remember why I didn't. It was $550, or 2015. It was $550. I think the HOA back here was very pricey. And I think that was what set me off at the time. The HOA I had moved in, and I don't like housing associations, but the HOA I was in was $50 a month that I was moving into. And it came with a pool and the normal amenities, which isn't much really, a pool, clubhouse that you never use. And this one was like $330 or something, which I thought was insane because you weren't getting anything more. They have a bunch of little lakes you can go out on, but they're not like powerboat lakes. They're more John boat lakes, kayak lakes. But that's the cost. Then I found out some lots in here, I don't know which, were elective HOA. In other words, they didn't have to be in it. Now, I don't know about you guys, but HOAs suck. If you want people to tell you what to do with your stuff, that's great. They have advantages to keep your housing value up by limiting the size of structures and what can go in there and not have a bunch of yard ornaments parked in your thing. But what I found out is if you have a lot that's going for $100,000 for a 3/4 acre lot, you're not going to put a trailer on it. Typically, you're going to put something on there of size because you just paid $100,000 for a 3/4 acre lot, which is a ton. That would be a terrible move. The other part is, what I found is, the HOAs can be picky about some things and then let other people live like crap as far as their yards and everything like that. So it's like selective enforcement, which is weird. You know, I keep my stuff up no matter what, but some of my others in the neighborhood aren't. They don't seem to do anything to them. But I left the trash cans out once. Well, actually a couple times where they didn't come pick it up that day. And damn if I didn't get a letter. I started laughing. So you see one of those lakes right there, big houses on it. A lot of these houses out here, 8 to 12,000 square feet. My neighborhood, they range, I think the smallest house in the neighborhood is across from me. It's about 3,800 square feet. And it goes in my neighborhood probably to, let's see, mine's right at 4,700 square feet, plus a unfinished basement that I built. I want to tell you, they get to probably 8,000 square feet, counting basements, give or take. Back here, much bigger in some areas, like this one to the right I just saw. This one right here to the right's nice too. They're building to the left here. It'll be an expensive one because that lot was real expensive. My friend almost bought this house to the left, right here. It went up for auction a couple times during the recession. I think it was 11 or 12,000 square feet with like marble floors and statues. Crazy stuff. He won the bid twice, but they had a reserve, and so they paid to get out of it. I think when it sold in 15 or 16, right before we got out of the recession, totally, I want to tell you it was 1.2 million, but right now it'd be every bit of 2 million plus. It had its own river that if you ran, it cost $300 a month in electricity that pumped the water from the lake and started its own damn river. A little posh for me, but that's what they did. This guy's been doing some nice stuff. It redid all this stonework. And these pads are just, you put these concrete things there because he installed irrigation and he doesn't want somebody to get it. This house right there didn't look that big, probably from the late 90s, but it's massive in the back in 3 tiers going down a hill. This guy did a nice job. Put sod and then grass seed. He just didn't want it getting ran over. He did most of it himself. I don't think he laid the sod, but I'm guessing he's retired, looking for projects. Did a nice job. The house is probably from the 90s, early 2000s back there, but he seems to be always working on it. Up here we have a house me and my wife like to call the Beetlejuice house, if you've ever seen Beetlejuice. And it had this weird architecture. It was the guy, rich guy, that moved to suburbia. He had a nervous breakdown. And it cost a lot. They redid a house. Well, this house to the left right here just got built. It has that same architecture. So we call it the Beetlejuice house, me and my wife. It took them 3 years to make it. I think 2.5, 3 years. It's under construction forever. I don't know what it will cost, but I'm sure it was expensive. 1.5, 1.4 at least. We almost bought the lot it's on. Actually, we almost bought the whole cul-de-sac when we first moved here. I could have got all those lots together for, whoa, and I'm gonna say ballpark. 100 grand. When they bought them, they were 100 grand a lot. 2 of the lots now weren't worth a damn. I call them buffer zones. And they dug that one out. It was on a hill. They dug way back on it. This one just sold a few years ago for 1.2 or 1.3 million. This is their $300 a month clubhouse. Not much to it to me. It's nice. It's just a clubhouse, a pool, a tennis courts. I think the money is in the lake maintenance. This is all down my road here. Long uphill here. I mean, it's pretty back here. My neighborhood's pretty, this area's pretty. It's all nice. It's funny, when we were looking at homes, we lived about 6-7 miles down the road, and we wanted to secure ourselves in a school district. We were afraid changes were happening and we were going to get stuck because we were on the boundary. Came to that the boundaries never changed. We would have been fine where we were and that house would be paid off. Ironic, right? But we live and learn. I'm not unhappy we moved. We got a great house. Not because they built it right, because the things we did. We had to take over building because the builder went basically out of business. And even worse, he was going to make me bankrupt. It was terrible. My house that was supposed to be done in 4 months took a year, and that was with me finishing the final 40% myself. So it was a learning curve, but we learned, we lived, and stronger for it. I got some money back out of him, slowly but surely. There was a lot of things I had to do though, and a lot of pains. Ended up in court with the guy. I never met anybody like him. Didn't care about money, didn't care if he went defunct. My fault, I signed the contract. But we never thought we'd be in the neighborhood we're in. Actually, we didn't prefer it for some reason, me and my wife. It's nice. And it's funny, here we are, we live there. Imagine that. Isn't that ironic? I think it's just the way it goes sometimes. A friend of mine, physician, almost bought this lot. I personally didn't like it. It's more like a drainage field. But he screwed around for so long that the people didn't want to sell to him. Kind of ironic. Here's a big house right here in the back. It drops to another floor, so it's 3 stories on the water. A lot of the houses back here are connected to small lakes and stuff, which is nice in some ways. To me, they're more like mosquito traps. This is a smaller house on the right with the flag coming up. That was built in the last 3 or 4 years. I went into it when they were building it, and what I found was they weren't in the HOA. That's how I found out a few lots were somehow excluded. They were voluntary. It's a nice little house. It's not little, but it's smaller than the rest of the neighborhood by half. Hey, squirrels. A lot of hills. So it's not the trails, it's not as fun, but it's better than getting on an elliptical. I can't run anymore, my knees don't take it. So these are the options. And I figured I'd shoot a little walk through the neighborhoods. It's amazing the difference in speed you can have, even on a mountain bike, from the road to trails. Just without bouncing, without this harsh cuts. Because on the trails, you're constantly switching. I'm switching gears here too, but it's mainly hill, not because, and turns, not because all the finite turns. This is the same developer, aka he owned the land. It's family hand down from his daddy. To the left, looks like he sold out to a partner, but I've seen him here for some reason. If you guys have ever dealt with most developers, you know, well, they're just not fun people. Is that the way to say? And he's no different. So he had to make this a separate neighborhood from us. One, because he didn't have control of the HOA anymore. When builders build, what they do is they have these little things as developers. They give them 5 votes to your 1 for every lot they own, which guarantees them that they don't have to ask your permission to put a house in there, a road, change the terms, cheapen the houses, whatever they want. Their investment is protected, not yours, until enough houses get in there that they lose their power. So them having 5 votes on every lot they haven't even developed, i.e., when I say developed, I mean started a house on, is kind of crazy. But he who has the purse makes the rules, and that's what they're doing. So once he lost it here, the residents had had enough of him. His daddy did a neighborhood ahead of us that we're going to in a few. But all this land was old money. Same family owned to the right, the Hiltons, and to the left, I forget his name, but the Jessups. But they owned all this. And so when they stopped farming for the most part,
5 miles,
or whatever the hell they were doing, they started making housing developments outside of Greensboro here. This area turned very yuppie-ish, very money-oriented. And since they already owned the land, they could make money on it. So the general rule of thumb is if you're going to develop a neighborhood, is a third, a third, a third. A third to buy the land, a third to develop the land, and a third is profit. That's before you build a home. Since he already had the first third, it was hard for him to screw up and not make money. In theory, he should have 2/3 profit. His dad wasn't into building any houses himself, just neighborhoods. At the end of my neighborhood, he partnered with a builder and did, I don't know, not many, probably 10, 12 houses. And in the new neighborhood, at first, he made it himself with the other partner as the only guy that was going to build. lots. So by doing that, he guaranteed himself the full purse if he could sell them. Since the area went crazy like the rest of the country, real estate around here has went insane, especially after people started moving out of New York, Connecticut, Jersey, basically the Northeast, because the costs are so insane and the COVID lockdowns were just wretched. They moved to this area because it was better than what it was, and the taxes were a lot better than where they were. So they moved to all over North Carolina, especially. It was a hotbed besides Florida and Texas. So this area, for the amount of money you make to the cost of real estate, was very affordable. Because remember, it's not how much money we make, it's how much money it costs us to live. And at the end of the day, our living expenses, quality of life, and then the end of the day money after it's all paid out is really what you're making. You can make $3 million a year, live in the middle of Manhattan where a crappy little 600 square feet condo costs you $3 million or more. You can't own a car, you have no yard, you can't raise a family. You're not really doing so good. You could live out here when I came here, make 100 grand a year, which was a lot of money for this area. Put you probably in the top 5% come 2011 or more or better. And you were living in the upper echelons. You could buy one of the nicer houses. Big difference. So when you look at things, you got to look at that. And even now, it's gotten way more expensive. But for the bang for the buck, I want to tell you, North Carolina, if you're making 150 grand or more, that puts you in the top 5%. I believe in Greensboro, that puts you in the top 3 to 2%. So if you can find something that pays you, you can live very well. Now mind you, this isn't the nicest place I've ever lived or the worst. It's kind of in the middle. The people are pretty nice overall. The schools are real good in this area. But it's not perfect. There are things you don't like. When it rains here, sometimes it feels like it's England because it'll be overcast for a few days. It's a clay base, so that means your yard stays disgusting after it rains for a week. And depends who you are. If you moved here before 2010, you were doing good. If you're moving here now, you're paying a premium of 30-40% at least compared to 2000, probably more than that. My old home I bought for $86 a square foot. I did a lot of upgrades to it. It was probably one of the nicest in the neighborhood. It was still in this school district. It was just down the road at the edge of it, probably 6 miles or so. 4-sided brick, fireplace, 4-bedroom, let's see, 2 full baths and 2 half baths, a bonus room, a big 400 square feet screened in porch and deck outside of that on about an acre, a quarter lot with a fence, 3-car garage, and an air-conditioned 3-car garage for your motorheads. And I want to tell you, it came to $288 when I moved in here in February of 2011. Now, mind you, I did the screen porch, the fence, some upgrades inside. It was, depending on how you measured it, $2,750 to $3,200, depending on what they counted. Plus a 3-car garage at the screen porch and a front porch and a sprinkler system. And like I said, it was $293 and they gave me $5,000 off. It was, I bought in the middle of the recession. It was $329 the month before I bought it. The builder was about to go out of business. Developer needed to move it. I did well. When I sold it 5.5 years later, it took me 5 months to sell, 4 months. And I sold it for $350. And that was after all my upgrades. So I figured by the time I lived in it, did the upgrades, I broke even, really. There's a lot with sweat equity, but I did a lot of nice things for the next guy. The next people previously sold it about 6 months ago, 7 months ago. They did absolutely nothing, not paint the walls, nothing. I replaced the carpet with some stuff, painted the whole house a better paint. And I want to tell you, oh, they did a hot water tank because they had to. It must have went out. I saw that on the outside of the house. And a roof vent. And they sold it for $450. And it was on the market for a day or two. Does that give you an idea? So they sold it for $100,000 more. They lived in it approximately 5 years. So the house is 5 years older. Did minuscule things. Yard looked a lot worse. And they made $100,000. As far, you know, before realtor costs compared to what I sold for. You know, because really I sold for $350 minus 5% commission. I lost, you know, $18,000 or something. So by the time you factor in these things, you're not gaining. I lived in it, and I just hope not to lose, because with inflation adjusted, taxes, interest, I really didn't make any money. Now, mind you, them not doing anything. Them not doing anything but a water heater and a roof vent and just living in the house. I mean, they're looking at, whew, you know, a pretty good thing. Because I think they moved from Baltimore, so it's just one of those things. But that shows you, from the 10 years I bought it, $288 to $450. It's a huge jump. Not perfect, but it's huge. Now my house was $550. It's on about an acre. It's 4-bedroom, 4-bath, an office, a bonus room. The office could be another bedroom, although it's not perked for 5, so you have to call it an office. And a huge bonus room, and another room that could be another office, playroom, whatever. I added it on after the fact. About 350 square feet. I took wasted attic space and made a room. It's got 4 separate attics. And you're talking, I had to finish 40% of the house. I got about $30,000 back out of the builder. It took me for a year and something. 200 here, 500. He was a real pain in the ass. He was afraid I was going to sue him on some other stuff. And I had all the paperwork. He didn't keep anything. And he had other people he was screwing. So I had the leverage on him to pay me. They all got screwed, I think, by him. But to keep me from turning over any of my paperwork, he paid out reluctantly on some things. Now, I finished the crawl space into an unfinished basement, unofficially. Looks good, nice tool area, work area, whatever. Then I did the room upstairs, heated and aired. A lot of yard work, 17 zone irrigation system, a nice iron black fence, a big one, which cost me probably 13, 14 grand when I put it in. What else? You name it, a bunch of little stuff. A lot of trees to separate, a lot of stuff. But anyway, I figure I got 30 to 50,000 in it, plus sweat equity, probably more like 35, 40, and a lot of sweat equity for different things to upgrade it. Now, mind you, I made sure I got a real bang for my buck on a lot of things. It's a smart home. Everything's wired to a centralized room, from cable, internet, telephone, I don't care what it is. And then it goes from there to all the other rooms. I soundproofed all the inner walls, which most of the time people don't realize there's no insulation or nothing in inner walls. That's where I hear everything. I put top-notch appliances, top-notch granite. I mean, there's probably 600-700 square feet of granite at least in my house. I don't know, a lot. 2 bars, upstairs and down, movie room, and that. I mean, you name it, there's a lot of stuff that I did that you just won't see behind the scenes. Cutoffs for water all over the place so you don't freeze in the winter. A French drain system inside and out. I over-engineered basically everywhere. It's all brick. It's all Trex decking. You name it. And I want to tell you, the last estimate, now mind you, these are all the little damn things that come with Zillow, Redfin, all that, is somewhere between $8,000 and $950 on the top. Probably more like $850 to $875 at current market. Now remember, my house isn't worth nothing till I sell it. So if the market falls out and I need to sell, it's $1, and I gotta sell it, it's worth $1. But at present evaluation, it's in that $850 range, give or take, which to me is a lot. My house is really nice, but you never know. Now, this is my neighborhood, all this. The area we just rode through was the first section a long time ago in the 90s that the developer's father developed. But it's all separate, it's not our neighborhood. These houses were probably around 2010, give or take. Not very nice houses. Good size. At the end of this next cul-de-sac, it's one of the only lots in this area available. And it's available because it's considered undesirable. It's a 2-acre lot. It just recently sold to a builder. Here, build something on it. You can build on anything if you're willing to charge and get it. But this right here at the end, you see it says for sale. It's 2 acres in the cul-de-sac, really nice, but it goes down and goes way up, so it's kind of an odd, peculiar house placement. So you have to plan on that when you build on it, which isn't high on my list. I looked at this house to the left here about a year before I built mine, and it was nice from the outside. It is sold a couple times for a lot of money, but it is cut up inside. Not my type. This one straight in front, sold from a moving company. That was a great deal. At the time, it was sat on the market. I don't know why. Moving companies or reload companies, they didn't want to get them off the book, so they lowered it like $5 grand a week till somebody bought it. And the person got it. It's like around 4,000 square feet, really nice inside, and they got it for like $450 or $475, which is a deal in here. Now, mind you, that was probably 2017, or yeah, something like that. I would have bought that up if I was looking at the time. Man, must be low. These are nice houses. This one just recently sold for $750, I think, or more. I don't know. This one to the right by the stop sign, I think is one of the oldest in this area. It was built way before the other houses. Little different design, kind of a little older looking compared to that. It has more of a early 2000s look. They must have built it a ways ahead of the rest. As soon as the roads went in, is my guess. It's a nice house, but it's interesting. Here's our clubhouse and 2 pools. They put the second pool in. The weird thing that I didn't realize is every house in this community was guaranteed 6 square feet of pool, which is an arbitrarily weird thing. So this area to the left got built, and technically they weren't in our neighborhood. The developer had control, so he was holding their money for their HOA costs, told them they got to go to the pool, but it wasn't their pool, it wasn't their thing. So when it was all said and done, our HOA had a lawsuit with him for 1.5 years. It cost us $100 grand or something in lawyer fees. It cost him a bunch, and we bought him out. He had developed it like a 30 or 40 year annuity, but he turned it over at that point when it would be in all of massive need of repair. So I don't know if it was a good deal for us or not, because it raised our damn HOA costs to cover the lawyer fees by a ton, and I could really give a shit if you really want to know. We went from, the year I moved in here, $500 a year in HOA costs, to now $1,050 6 years later. That's a lot. And what I didn't realize is, hidden in most HOA contracts, the board can electively raise your dues by $50 or 10% a year without a vote to cover costs. Now, I'll be honest, just like my last neighborhood, I've never been able to figure out the math. their calculators work different than mine. My old neighborhood, I started off at $550 and I left at $950 over 5 years, 5.5 years. And the crazy part was we added probably 60 or 80 houses during that time period. That's a lot of revenue. We didn't add any services. This is now part of our HOA, by the way, here, after the agreement. So what happened, I used to ask the question, where's the money going? Because if you don't add services and you're paying the bills before, how the hell can you add a lot of revenue every year of new houses, guaranteed revenue, and still be negative on the books? Then they turned around and did the same thing here. Part of it was the lawyer cost. I know that that was the new debt, and buying the other developer out. So I guess we had to take a loan for that. But still, we've added in this neighborhood since I've lived here. Let's see, at least 30 houses, maybe more. Figure right now at $1,050 a pop. Let's call it between 30 and 35K of new money. 10 miles. We haven't added any new things besides the lawyer costs and the buyout. Now, when we did the buyout, we lost what we had to pay him too for a servicing fee, so that kind of equaled. Basically, we added 100 grand, which is crazy. So 100 grand for the neighborhood, to me, is costing me $500 a year, which is bullshit. Because to me, it's not worth it. I'd have still had the services without the money. I don't care if he profited or not at the end of the day. Most people are in homes 5 to 7 years. That's it. Average homeowner across America moves every 7. I moved from my last one in 5.5. I've been in this one 6. We have no plans to move, but the way the world works in jobs, you never know. And since this area has money, these people are more apt to move for jobs. They're mostly not blue collar. Most executives, doctors, lawyers, etc. Mostly. So at the end of the day, we're all paying essentially a lot more money, and it never goes down. It's like a tax. All to have an HOA boss you around. And technically, this road we're on, it cuts through the back of the neighborhood, is not part of our development. It's part of the developers. The lots are not good. They go way up, they go way down on the other side. So hills, they're not desirable. The end has 1 or 2 lots that's worth building, and they just built 1 house. I have no idea what the agreement is, but from what my understanding, this area wasn't included and folded in. Other one was. Who knows? You can say you'd love to have a pool, but you can keep it. For the cost, I get a pool membership if I really want one. What happens really anyway, lots of people have their own pools in here, and the ones that don't almost never use it. This clubhouse and pool is very rarely used. It's only open from mid-May or something to September. That gives you an idea. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. It's free if you enjoyed this. And click to subscribe. We're gonna have lots of videos on rides. Some just gonna have music to them. Maybe you want to ride your exercise bike at home, feel like you're part of it. Others, we'll be talking about life issues, Dad's world. That's the channel. Hopefully I get better at seeing what you guys want. Don't be afraid to hit me a comment. A lot of home improvement stuff. Got one last big hill here.